Greetings, everyone. This is Vakar Korvi from TST Perspective. Today, I'll quickly go over the Afghanistan-Pakistan relations, which have become sore because of exchange of fire across the Pakistan-Afghan border. And now we find, absurd kind of narrative coming on social media, especially it's being resonated from some of the social media cells of Taliban, the TTP, or the Khawarij India, and I think their affiliates in Pakistan also, especially one political party is trying to resonate it. Now, I think there is a need to remind Afghan brothers and sisters what kind of leverages Pakistan has, and it has never used them negatively. The military instrument is always applied as a last resort, and we've seen waves of terrorism in Pakistan, especially after Taliban too took over Afghanistan in 2021, and this was again, I think because of Pakistan, that we thought this will be a good option, that they could bring stability to Afghanistan and then move forward as a normal state. But somehow they thought they could leverage terrorism against Pakistan and draw concession. Pakistan is not going to give any concessions. Pakistan has the ability to go across, strike whenever we want, but definitely we have to look at the humanitarian side. Already, a lot of human cry on, let's say, collateral damage. Despite that, the targets were precisely selected, and then they also suffered a lot on the Pak-Afghan border. Despite their fake videos, I think they had quite a bloody nose. Now, there are other leverage that I've always mentioned in the media that Pakistan has, and they are six and seven in different domains. So you have economic, you have social domain, in the information domain, in the military domain, diplomatic, and also I would say faith or cultural based leverages where we can actually converge and help each other as brothers. Generally, Pakistan is regarded as the elder brother, but we have found that successful governments have tried to play at times the ethnic card, not realizing that Afghanistan itself is a tradition of three or four large communities, and Pashtuns are just one part of that. And they are actually smaller than Pashtuns in Pakistan. So, logically, in case they want to make something, they should join Pakistan's Pashtun population to get integrated into that. And then we can always ask Tajikistan to integrate the Tajik areas, Uzbekistan to integrate the Uzbek areas, and Iran takes Herat province, and then you are left with, I think, uh, one fifth of whatever exists in Kabul and surrounding areas. But we are today going to discuss about certain economic and humanitarian leverages that Pakistan has never negatively used. And just to remind them that these are the kind of gestures that Pakistan has made. First is the humanitarian. It was believed that Pakistan had Afghanistan as strategic depth, which is found to be totally 180-degree other way around. Pakistan has become a strategic depth for Afghans. Uh, it is a record, it's a world record that for the last 40 years Pakistan has hosted more than or closer to 5 million Afghan in different forms and shapes because of massive migrations. I have always mentioned that Afghanistan has never been stable for last 200 years, what to talk of last 40 years. But in last 40 years you had two superpower occupation, not interventions, one by the Soviet Union and then by America. And Pakistan had to actually bear the brunt of a wave of immigrants or Muhajirin coming from Afghanistan, and we always opened our doors, even during COVID time. Even now, if you go to KP and Balochistan, the people on the ground say that still the I think overall uh, population of Afghan living in Pakistan is still closer to 5 million. I'm not very sure. Government figures are slightly different. But hosting 5 million Afghans for last 40 years is a record. It's a world record. And 5 million means it's this population in terms of demographic weight is even larger than some of the European countries. So basically, Pakistan is hosting almost a country-sized population as brothers and sisters, and never reminded them that we are doing it. Why 80% of the Afghan would not like to go back? So Taliban has to think about it. Then they are also dependent on Pakistan for trade. We look at Afghan transit trade. It touched more than $7 billion, I think, 2 years back. And then Pakistan found a lot of such goods were being imported which had no use in Afghanistan. So it was being misused. Then there was a crackdown on smuggling and the illegal spectrum, which has now brought it to some level, but still it is double the size of trade with Iran. And here you have transit trade, free access to Karachi, and maybe Gwadar will also be offered. So Afghanistan enjoys, basically at the cost of Pakistan. So they should also remember that in case Pakistan shuts down, it's going to become a humanitarian disaster for Afghanistan. Nothing is going to come. There's also dependence on Pakistani grain, especially wheat, rice, and other things. And Afghanistan actually survives on Pakistan's wheat every season because ultimately, if you look at the figures, they are not able to produce much, even fertilizers. And then definitely there are services provided by Pakistani community in Afghanistan. Almost 300,000 Afghans cross international border between Pakistan and Afghanistan every month, mostly from Afghanistan for different reasons. For treatment of patients, especially women, who are in labor, or for education, for businesses, for transport. Even it has become now a transit point because there are not too many international flights, flying through Afghanistan. And even if you look at basically medical supplies, foreign assistance, and other things, Afghanistan is dependent on Pakistan. Then we come to the diplomatic issue or diplomatic factor. Pakistan was the one who played, I think, I would say Pakistan went out of the way to help Taliban in 2021. The first investment conference for Afghanistan was held in Islamabad. Then, of course, there was a huge effort for the international community to recognize them. Although there are now channels being opened by a couple of countries in the region, like especially the neighbors would like to have their offices in Afghanistan. It is Iran, it is China, Russian Federation, and mainly Pakistan. I don't think so. Indians have even allowed the Afghanistan embassy in Delhi to function properly. Maybe in these days they have allowed them some liberty of action. Their embassies are also shut down in Europe and North America, and they mainly operate through their offices in Doha. But if you look at Pakistan, this diplomatic, communication was always open, and on both sides, Pakistan did allow them to, have diplomatic relations. We have the options of again shutting it down, but I think for the Afghan people, because Taliban can come and go, but Pakistan cannot abandon 40 million Afghans. And look at the plight of Afghans, especially the women. 20 million are almost imprisoned in their houses. They don't have now access to medical services, education, and there's also now a lot of, I think, oppression being conducted in the garb of vice and virtue. And there was definitely a plan to shut down showing pictures in 21st century. Just imagine. Now, also on the issue related to governance, infrastructure development, Afghanistan is heavily dependent on Pakistan. And in case Pakistan stops this lifeline, there will be serious problems in Afghanistan because being a landlocked country and Karachi being the direct access. And then there are definitely cultural and economic linkages which no other country enjoys. Pakistan and Afghanistan are like brothers. Look at the Pak-Afghan border. There are villages which are divided, there are houses which are divided, and there are families living on both sides. Pakistan is also refrained from taking any military action regularly, so this being done very selectively because of terrorism. And now, when Taliban has openly said that TTP were their guests, words to that effect, so I'm sure they should be able to now bear the cost of this policy. It's always better that we work as normal countries and basically help each other. And Pakistan has actually to give a lot to Afghanistan. Afghanistan can play a negative role by, let's say, threatening that they could get support from enemies of Pakistan. They can try it. But I think looking at historical legacy, Pakistan still is in a much better position. Now, if you look at the military capability, and it's being discussed on social media, there's no match because Pakistan could, with the grace of Almighty, it's a battle hardened army, air force, and navy, and it will take actually minutes to take any action inside Afghanistan, but Pakistan would avoid it. So the kind of capability that Pakistan has, even India is deterred. We have shown it in swift retort that we not even spare India being a larger country. But when it comes to sovereignty of Pakistan, Pakistan would take action. There's also something related to the National Resistance Front that I think we must now talk about it, because when the Taliban government starts thinking that TTP are their guests and India is now their benefactor, I think Pakistan should have the options of talking to National Resistance Front, which claims that probably they are conducting more than 200 operations inside Afghanistan on monthly basis. So this can be verified from their different accounts. We have seen Ayman Masood's interview with Sean Ryan show, where he actually criticized the West for supporting such a ruthless regime. And even if you look at overall Taliban's structure, there is a news of the fault line developing, especially with the Haqqani network. We have seen the assassination of uncle of Jalaluddin Haqqani, which means that basically Sirajuddin Haqqani, that there are now factionalism within Taliban. And then there are groups like, operating in the west, in the north, and in the east. So, all told, it will take a little while to, let's say, incite another revolt in Afghanistan. Pakistan would definitely avoid it. Pakistan also has an extensive intelligence network within Afghanistan. If you look at the human intelligence, it is enormous. Then we have technical intelligence. Also, we have connection with the Afghan diaspora. And if you look at the general feeling in Afghanistan, whether it is the National Resistance Front, the women folk, which form, I would say 50% of population, the people with some free minds, everybody is actually fed up of them. The region is fed up. Iran is fed up. They are making a wall worth billions of dollars to stop the, let's say, nonsense originating from Afghanistan. In Moscow format, I think Afghanistan was ticked and given this, that they should stop terrorism by Russia, Pakistan, Iran, China, Central Asian republics. So I think there's something that Taliban need to know, that one, they'll get diplomatically isolated, and within Afghanistan things are not very rosy. It could erupt into a civil war. So Pakistan can definitely provide them some semblance of, I think, stability and security. So Pakistan's actual policy of keeping the diplomatic and economic channels open is because we consider Afghans to be our brothers. It's only up to Taliban government that instead of boasting about Afghanistan being a graveyard of empire, we know it. But I always say that Afghanistan is graveyard of empire, then it's also graveyard of millions of Afghan, because of policies. Every time a superpower comes, there is a fight. When it leaves, the Afghans start fighting with each other, and this has been the history. But we wish and pray that they start behaving like a noble country. So with the message of goodwill for Afghanistan, I'll end here with the hope that Afghan Taliban would realize that Pakistan and Afghanistan can coexist without friction. The only thing is they have to stop, these terrorist networks support from Afghanistan, and Pakistan and Afghanistan can move forward. Thank you very much.